Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you're doing well out there. So, in today's video, we are going to be discussing something that I've tried to shoot about 3 or 4 times, and I just keep screwing the video up. So, hopefully, this time it'll stick, which is the topic of working at becoming more well rounded and balanced as a person, and how massively underrated this is in terms of personal development work. So, join me for this conversation, and I want to really try to persuade you to understand from my point of view why it's so useful to work at being well rounded and kind of getting better at the places where you are deficient rather than just kind of rationalizing that that's not who you are. So join me and let's talk about it. So, like I said in the intro, this is a video I've tried to shoot a bunch of times. It's been driving me crazy. And either I was too brain foggy and groggy, I've kind of been going through a little bit of a health funk thing over the last week, or too manic, too all over the place, under articulating what I want to say. So I'm redoing this again because I feel like it's a really important thing. Okay. So the idea I want to convey to you here is that it's really something you want to do. It's something that pays off massively to work at improving your deficiencies as part of your personal development process. So, whether we're talking spiritual growth, again, therapeutic growth, general personal development work, becoming the best version of yourself, something we don't hear mentioned about nearly enough, from my point of view at least, is this idea of working at improving the places where we are weak or that are perhaps not our natural way of doing things and getting better so that we are more well rounded. Okay, so I want to explain to you a few of these examples. And the thing I want to just tell you about this off the bat is that this is something that I took up kind of intuitively a long, long time ago. So early on in my personal development journey, I kind of made it an intention and a goal and a kind of a guidepost to make sure that I'm working to become more well rounded as a person. So I realized that in certain senses, I was never going to be as good as other people at certain things, right? And I'll explain that in a moment here. And we'll kind of use some Myers Briggs kind of examples because they're easy to kind of wrap our heads around. But I really want you to get that there over time, this pays off, that the more that you work at being well rounded over time, it really, really does make you a more functional person. So let me unpack this a bit with you. I'll give some examples from my own life, my own character, and hopefully you'll start to understand what I mean here. So let's just start with some obvious examples. Okay, so if you're someone who's highly introverted, that might be your nature, that might be how you're wired. I don't know, I think that's kind of debatable, but let's say it is, right? Even though you're highly introverted, it's probably going to be valuable and useful for you to develop extrovert skills, to be able to be comfortable being in a social environment, being comfortable being social, extroverting yourself, expressing yourself, letting yourself go, letting yourself really be free and flowing and big and articulate, right? But also the opposite here, right? If you are highly extroverted, it might be really, really useful for you, even though you're never going to be that introvert person who just wants to go be alone a bunch, to learn how to get more comfortable being alone, right? To be able to tolerate those moments in life where there's just a little lull, a little gap, a little silence. Maybe no one's available. Maybe no one's free. Maybe you want to go do something that no one else wants to do. And if you know how to enjoy your own company and enjoy being by yourself, it makes it much more doable, right? So either way, you know, we increase our flexibility by learning how to do the opposite. And I would say this is true with whatever your character is. So, using myself as an example here. So, I am, fundamentally as a personality type, no matter what kind of test or personality profiling or typing I do, whether it's astrology or Myers Briggs or human design or blah, 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 all the stuff, right? No matter what it is, big five, I pretty much show up in the same way, of course, as you'd expect, which is essentially that I'm a very much a creative uh, type personality. I'm very much an introverted artist, abstract thinker, feeler, creator of abstract things kind of person, right? I'm not a highly organized, highly motivated, focused, consistent, persistent kind of person. Obviously, look at my posting schedule here on the channel, right? I am not let me see what else. I'm not a highly extroverted person who's out there to, network and win everyone over and wow everyone with my personality. That's never been my drive, right? So knowing this, right, what I can tell you about that is that it's very easy for me to let life pass me by, quite frankly, just hiding out at home, being comfortable by myself, which is a very comfortable thing for me, and just being creative, but not really engaging, not growing, not having new experiences, not traveling, not meeting new people, not networking. And therefore, when I engaged in that more, when I was just indulging that, my life kind of atrophied. The more I worked at learning how to be extroverted, at learning how to be on point and set a schedule and be rigorous, excuse me, and be true to my word and follow through on things and organize things and all the stuff, right? The better my life got. Now, am I ever going to be as highly organized and extroverted? Like I said, no. But it's improved my life and made me much more skillful and well rounded. And what I've noticed is that this starts to translate to an ability to be in different contexts and be functional, right? So over time, this has really paid off for me. So what I see a lot online, right? To me, this is weird. Let me be real with you. To me, it's very strange that, you know, you would think it would be common sense that people would be working to balance themselves out and become well rounded, fully functioning human beings. In general, that seems like that would be an obvious instinct or intuition to have if you care about growing, if you care about becoming your best version, right? Seems obvious. In reality, in practice, what I've seen over and over is that it doesn't matter if we're talking spiritual community, psychedelic community, self-help community, the therapy community, or even the online content around personal development, what I see more often is people making excuses for the way they already are and really just leaning into that and not working at growing and becoming better at the things that they're perhaps a bit deficient in. Right. And I've seen this in my own life. I've seen this with a lot of my friends and family members and whatnot. And what I've noticed over time is that sure, like I said, granted, I'm not necessarily going to be, as optimized as someone who's natural at some of these things. Excuse me, but I've been able to be more functional and be more adaptable and be more well-rounded and able to be in different situations and work and thrive, make different types of agreements with different types of personalities who wouldn't normally resonate with a kooky artist personality like me, right? And it's really become such a gift, such an asset to be more well rounded and to know myself, know my strengths and my weaknesses, but also to know that I can kind of do some of these other things that aren't my strong suits, right? Now, by contrast, when I look at people who haven't done that, usually what ends up happening is they kind of stall out. They kind of cope and make a lot of excuses for why they aren't X way that they should be, right? Or that they could be, or that they might be. And a lot of times, what I find, honestly, is that the people who just kind of only rely on how they're naturally wired end up burning a lot of bridges or pissing people off because they're only functional in certain contexts, but otherwise not very functional, right? So we end up um, really upsetting people because we're not able to dynamically meet those of the other people in the world around us who may be different from us, right? So we become less functional outside of our own unique context. And I would say that in general, you don't want that. You don't want to have a very limited functionality and otherwise, you're highly dysfunctional. That's just it's not optimal, right? So I would really encourage you to think about, understanding, how you're wired, what your personality is, what your strengths are, and then to think about how can you get a little better at some of these weak spots. Again, you don't have to be perfect at them. You don't have to be fake. You don't have to lie about how you're wired, And I do want to say, while I'm thinking about it here, it occurs to me that there is a form of personal development out there. I'm thinking Gary Vee, for example, where there will be these ideas of, double down on your strengths, don't worry about your weaknesses, and that's a path to success. And, just to speak to that in case you're wondering about that too, I think that's also a good strategy. but I don't think that these are mutually exclusive. I think you can really lean into your strengths. And I think, you know, in the time when you're not leaning into your strengths, you can also kind of bolster and strengthen and kind of get better at your weaknesses and become more well-rounded. And both will serve you well. Okay. So that's the idea here. That's the message here. Again, over time, you know, as I've been reflecting on this in my own life, it's really paid off. And I think it's better to get past your biases and however you're wired and kind of be open and capable. I think that that's makes for a much more functional, happy person than to be really highly biased about how you're wired and then in conflict with anyone who's not wired the way you are, or, you know, running some sort of weird polarization around that. So anyways, that's the message for today's video. Let me know what you think. Do me a favor. I'm saying this at all the end of my videos right now. I'm trying to figure out what you as an audience really resonate with and like, what's hitting home for you. If you've watched this, please leave a comment down below and let me know. Was this boring for you? Did this hit home for you? What's working here for you? What isn't working here for you? I need the feedback so that I can make more of the content that you like, because I'm really here to serve you, right? I'm not just, this isn't just for me. So please tell me in the comments below if this hit home for you or if it didn't. And I'd much appreciate it. All right. Talk to you guys soon. More content on the way. Take care.